our next speaker is Jeff Tompkins, who is by far and without a question one of the speakers that we have that has the coolest first name today. Just kidding. Let's see. So Jeff, let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. Jeff is a guy that has been teaching people how to trade through a service called Udemy.com. He's picked up a number of different students through Udemy.com. That's basically where he came up. And like Vince, he has a very, very specific and price action ways of looking at the chart. This is the first time he's been to a MetaStock Trader Summit, and I'm very, very anxious and interested to see what he's got to say. He's a great business partner. We just barely released his methodologies into MetaStock like a couple weeks ago. One of the things that I will say about him is his methodologies exist in the MetaStock system tester, and they test extremely well. So we really appreciate Jeff here. We're gonna go ahead and bring him on here. Jeff?
All right, thanks for the intro, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
You sound like an angel.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get you. Let's go ahead and get you the screen controls. All right, so that should pop up on your screen.
Fantastic. And I'm working on dual monitor, so I want to make sure you see the right screen. Are you looking at?
I'm looking at preview mode.
Okay, so let me swap these out. That should look a little better.
That's exactly what I'd expect to see.
All right, great. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here this morning and have some great stuff to share with you guys today. And like Jeff mentioned, we are relatively new to the MetaStock platform. Our methodology is by no means new. I've been trading with the techniques that I'm going to teach you guys today for nearly 2 decades, and they've stood the test of time. And I'm really excited to release this to the public. I think you guys will be excited too once you see it. So we're going to talk about how to use one specific indicator to predict the markets. And really the purpose of this is to learn how to be on the right side of the trade regardless of what markets you trade, whether it's futures, forex, options, stocks. All right, so I want you guys to imagine if you could have predicted every major market sell-off in 2018. We had quite a wild ride in 2018, right? Some unique market conditions that really tested a lot of traders and unfortunately shook a lot of people out of the market. And I want you to imagine that we had a couple major corrections and a number of sell-offs. So if you could have predicted those, how that would have made a difference in your trading. So the indicator that we're going to talk about today, and this isn't actually the add-on that we're going to get to for MetaStock here later in the presentation, but this is just a standard indicator that is available on virtually any trading platform. And I want to show you how it could have predicted every correction that we saw in 2018. It actually it goes beyond that. It didn't just predict every correction in 2018. It also predicted the flash crash of 2015, and it predicted it an entire day before it happened. It also predicted the 10% correction we saw in October 2014, and it did this 2 weeks before the sell-off. It predicted the crash in July 2011, several days before the bears began driving prices down. And it also predicted the major sell-off in 2008 when the markets lost more than half of its value. So it does a really nice job at warning us to get out of the market before there's a major sell-off, or to take short positions or buy puts or whatever strategy we want to take advantage of to profit on the way down. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how this works in our session today. So to visualize this, I've got a chart of the SPX pulled up. This is just a 1-year daily chart, and this encompasses all of last year, 2018. And I just want to highlight where these 4 major market declines took place. If you guys traded at all last year, I'm sure you'll remember the first major correction we saw was in January. This was a 10% correction. The second took place in March. Then we saw one again in October, and a major one in December. So again, these were periods of the market where if you were long stocks, or if you had bought call options, or bullish vertical spreads, if you, regardless of what market you were trading, if you were long or had a long bias, you could have really been hurt here without knowing when to get out. So I'm going to show you how one indicator could have predicted these corrections before they actually took place. Before I do that, just a quick little bit about myself, because this is my first time at the Online Trader Summit. I just want to introduce myself. Again, I have 20 years of experience trading the stock, options, and futures markets. I'm the founder and chief investment strategist of the Trading Profit. We've currently taught over 17,000 members worldwide how to trade various stocks, options, forex, and futures strategies. And I became a professional trader to achieve freedom, and not just financial freedom, but freedom of time is really the reason that I like to trade. Trading in and of itself is not particularly exciting. It's not inherently exhilarating, but it does, when done correctly, provide the freedom to do the things that you like to do. I'm a big fisherman. I like to golf. I like to do a lot of outdoor activities, and it gives me the freedom to do that. And that's really the reason that I like to trade. I also am the founder and creator of Tradetrend, and this is now an add-on to MetaStock, and we're very excited about that and excited to share the results with you. And I think you'll find that they're quite astonishing when you see how they work. We are a Better Business Bureau accredited business. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. All right, so by the end of our session today, we're going to spend roughly an hour together. You're going to be able to find out how you can use one special indicator that's available for free in any trading platform to predict market moves. So this indicator is available in MetaStock, and it works for stocks, options, futures, and forex. And once you learn the correct way to use this indicator, you'll never look at the markets or trading the same way again. I can promise you that. And the reason is, most of us know that the vast majority of indicators are lagging. They use lagging data, and they have very little predictive value. But there are a very small handful of indicators that do have predictive qualities. And I'm going to explain to you how and why this is and how it works in just a second. We're going to look at one of those specifically today. So what you're going to learn on our session is why momentum is so vital to trading success. You're going to learn to read momentum shifts and continuations. So this is going to completely turn your trading around. You're going to learn how to use momentum as a leading indicator, not a lagging indicator. And you're going to learn how momentum can predict market moves. You'll also learn towards the end how you can get your hands on a tool that will change your trading forever. And I don't say that lightly. I say it with the utmost sincerity, because it has changed my trading forever. And it's allowed me to become a consistent, profitable trader. All right. So to get started, I want you guys to imagine a bowling ball. You'll see that I've got a picture of a bowling alley with a bowling ball on the right side of the screen. And I want you to imagine that many of you, I'm sure, at some point in your lives have bowled. And I want you to imagine when you walk up to the lane, to the bowling lane, and you wind the bowling ball back and you move your arm forward and release the ball from your fingers. I would venture to say that everybody on the session today can guess what happens next. Well, if you're a good bowler, the ball goes right down the lane and you knock down all the pins. If you're like me, it may go in the gutter. But in either case, the ball moves forward and it continues to roll until something stops it, right? So we all know, based on experience, what happens when we roll a bowling ball down a lane. And we don't necessarily have to know the reason for it. We just know by observation that it occurs. So I'm not going to give a physics lesson here, but just to give you an idea of why this happens and what momentum is outside of trading, is it's the property or tendency of a moving object to continue moving at its most basic definition. And for an object moving in a line, the momentum is the mass of the object multiplied by its velocity. And this is referred to as linear momentum in physics. So again, we're not going to get into a science lesson here, but I bring this up because it applies to the markets. And again, regardless of what market you trade, forex, futures, stocks, options, it applies, because we're looking at linear movement on a chart. The only difference is what's driving it. So with the bowling ball, the force of our arm and the release of the ball from our fingers results in the ball moving forward. With the markets, supply and demand drive momentum. And if we can figure that out and figure out the shifts in supply and demand, we can actually predict momentum movements and continuations, shifts and continuations. So why is momentum so important in trading? Well, again, it measures the velocity of price changes compared to the current price levels. And this is how it has predictive qualities. So momentum is measured by continually taking price differences for a fixed time period. And a momentum value above zero indicates that prices are moving up, and below zero indicates prices are moving down. And again, in its most basic definition. Now, here's the cool thing. I mentioned, and of course, the title of the presentation is how you could predict market sell-offs. But the cool thing about applying momentum to the markets is it doesn't just work on the way down. It also allows you to make money on the way up. So it goes both directions. And again, it measures the rate of the rise or fall in securities prices. So for trending analysis, it's a valuable indicator of strength or weakness in the underlying securities price. So you can see I've got a chart in the middle of the screen here. This is of the SPY. And the market sold off on the left, and there was a lot of momentum to the downside until we saw a shift, and the momentum indicators that I'm going to teach you about caught this shift in direction in supply and demand, and you can see that we could have made money to the upside. And once we can identify these momentum shifts, when we combine them, and this is a little trick I'm going to give you guys today, with a very specific type of order that we use to enter the markets, we can confirm that momentum shift. And that's by using buy stop or sell stop orders. So rather than using a limit or a market order to get in, we wait for the market to confirm the momentum. And for the long side, like what we're looking at here in the chart, we would use a buy stop order. And for the short side, we'd use a sell stop order. And this helps filter out false signals. It improves consistency and increases the profitability of the system. And we programmed this special entry technique into our trade trend add-on for MetaStock. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a second. But first, let's look at some examples of momentum indicators. So there are probably a couple dozen momentum indicators that you can access for free on most broker platforms. And they each have their strengths and weaknesses, and they each have different inputs that help them judge momentum. And it really truly comes down to how you apply them. So again, they each have strengths and weaknesses, but if you don't apply them correctly, they're probably not going to work too well. So it really comes down to interpretation. And that's the advantage of having an add-on like Tradetrend, is that you don't have to worry about interpreting the momentum continuations and shifts. The software does it for you. And once I show you how that works here in a second, you're going to be amazed. I'm confident of that. So first, let's look at some examples of momentum indicators. These are ones that many of you have probably heard of. One is the average directional movement index. It's called the ADX, and it can be used to help measure the overall strength of a trend. It does a pretty nice job at measuring trend strength. Then we've got the commodity channel index. So this is often referred to as the CCI. It was developed by Donald Lambert, and it measures the relation between price and normal deviations from a moving average. So again, a valuable momentum tool when used correctly. Then we've got the MACD, and this one is a very versatile momentum indicator. It reveals changes in the strength, direction, momentum, and duration of a trend in a stock's price, and it applies to other markets as well beyond the stock market. Then you got the relative strength index. This is often referred to as the RSI. It's a technical indicator used to chart the current and historical momentum strength or weakness of a security. And this is generally based on closing prices. All of these indicators, you can manipulate the input the data. So for instance, with the RSI, you can look at different periodicity. You can enter, I think most platforms have a default of 14 periods. So these are all can be manipulated. And that's an important thing to consider as well, because depending on your time frame, your time horizon, your outlook, other variables like volatility, you want to make sure that you set those inputs correctly to make sure that you're using them and applying them correctly. So, okay, let's now look at how we could have used a momentum indicator to predict market moves. So we're going to focus in on one of these four that I've got on the screen, and that is the MACD. So this is short for moving average convergence divergence. If you're not familiar with the MACD, it is a common indicator. Many of you, I'm sure, have used it at some point in your trading. There are a number of, excuse me, a number of ways to use this indicator. And we're going to focus in on one of those, and I'll show you how it predicted the market sell-offs in 2018. So if you're not familiar with it, again, it's short for moving average convergence divergence, and it's an indicator that is used in technical analysis of stock prices, and again, it can be applied to other markets. It was created by Gerald Appel in the late 70s. And the reason that it's one of the more effective momentum indicators is that it reveals changes in strength, direction, momentum, and duration. Okay, so it's probably the most versatile momentum indicator that's available. And like I said a second ago, you can interpret it in many different ways. You can also use many different inputs to set the indicator up. The one way that really does a nice job at predicting future momentum is the MACD cross. So its most basic element, the cross, generates buy signals when the MACD line crosses above the signal line. And we'll take a look at this in the next slide on our chart. And a sell signal is generated when the MACD line crosses below the signal line. Okay. Let's visualize this. So we're going to see how the MACD predicted the four major market declines of 2018. So I've got a chart of the SPX, and this is again just a daily chart that encompasses 2018. And on the bottom, I've got the MACD indicator plotted. So there was a cross in January. You can see that occurred up near the 40 level. And it warned us that we were potentially going to see a sell-off sometime following that cross. And it happened just a few days later. So it gave us a little bit of warning there. Here's another cross where the signal line crossed below the yellow line. And we see that in March. That gave us a warning that there was going to be a reversion back to the 200-day moving average. We saw another cross in October. And this one gave us a little bit more warning. It told us about a week ahead that we were going to see another sell-off in the market. And then finally in December, we saw a cross, and it gave us a pretty good warning that we were going to see another correction. So this particular momentum indicator, the MACD, gave us warning on all four of these market sell-offs. And had we used this, we could have either gotten out of the market before the sell-off occurred. We could have used strategies to capitalize on the move down. We could have bought put options. We could have shorted futures indices. There was a number of ways we could have taken advantage of these moves, or we could have simply gotten out of the market if we were buy and hold investors. But the important thing is this momentum indicator warned us ahead of time. Okay, so that's all well and good, right? So we know that we can use the MACD as a predictive tool in terms of momentum. But here's the cool thing. When you formulate the right combination of momentum indicators, so remember, there's about a couple dozen momentum indicators, and then you combine them with volatility studies and price action setups. Now remember, price action, we're talking about using things like buy stop and sell stop orders to confirm momentum direction, making sure that the price action is agreeing with the indicator. We can actually do much better than the MACD alone. So the MACD does a pretty good job on its own, but when we set this up with the right combination of momentum indicators, I'm going to show you how well it does compared to the MACD alone. So this is a screenshot of trade trend in the MetaStock platform, and it's a chart of the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY. And we've plotted all of our trade trend signals that combine a proprietary blend of momentum indicators that do an incredible job. And you can just, and I'll explain this here in a second, but they do an incredible job of predicting shifts before they actually happen. So again, the signal comes in 1 to 3 days before the move. And that signal is indicated by either a red or a green diamond. So a red diamond would signify a potential market sell-off, and a green diamond would signify a potential move to the upside. So here's a sell-off in January. This is the first correction that we just talked about. and you can see the red diamond there that told us, hey, the market's about to sell off. We need to take action. And sure enough, using price action to confirm that entry, just a few days later, we could have taken a short position or got out of the market before that occurred. Here's another one. This is the second sell-off we saw, the one in March. We had the red diamond warn us. We had a confirmation with the red arrow, and we're short, or we're out of the market. Here was the one in October and the one in December. Now, these aren't cherry picked. We're talking right now about sell-offs, but this works very well for really any move, regardless of magnitude. So here's another one to the upside. We could have taken a long trade here before the sell-off occurred. Another nice move to the upside. And look how incredible this is, how it predicts these moves nearly at the tops and bottoms of these shifts. Here was another one, another nice long trade. This short trade, it caught it right at the top of that move. Another long trade, caught it right at the bottom. So these are all over the chart, right? You can see them all over the place. Now, if you look on the right side of the screen where I've got the big oval that caught the December correction, if we had bought just 10 put contracts, at the money put contracts, when we got that red diamond telling us that the market was about to move down, okay, just 10 contracts at the money, 264 strike, would have netted us nearly $10,000 in profit just on that one move alone. Now you can see that there's all kinds of opportunities on this chart with trade trend, but that one move alone would have given us a profit of nearly 10,000 on 10 contracts. 20 contracts, we would have had a profit of nearly $20,000. So you can see what's possible when you can pinpoint momentum shifts and continuations with this kind of accuracy. You can simplify your option strategies for all your options traders out there, and you can just trade long calls and long puts. Keep it simple and make some really nice profits using this technique. All right, so I want to show you guys how we can use the trade trend add-on to catch these momentum shifts and continuations earlier than we would with the MACD indicator alone. So this is a chart of the SPY again. It's a daily chart. And the MACD, I'm just picking one example. There are probably about a dozen examples on this chart, but I'm just picking one out of the middle here, where the MACD signified a momentum continuation to the upside. And it told us we could have gotten long right here where the arrow is. Now, if we had used trade trend that uses that proprietary combination of momentum indicators to get us in earlier, we could have gotten in an entire week before the MACD signal. Okay, so that's what happens when we combine the right, when we use the right combination of momentum indicators and combine those with volatility and price action to predict market momentum. So trade trend would have gotten us in an entire week before the MACD signal. And then trade trend also told us to get out. It told us exactly what day to get out of this trade. So not bad, right? We would have made money on either one, whether we had used the MACD signal alone or whether we had used trade trend. So if we had bought an at-the-money call option using the MACD, we would have had a profit of $335. Not bad. If we had bought call options using trade trend, however, an entire week before the MACD signal, we would have a profit of nearly $5,000. So that's the difference between using trade trend and using the MACD momentum alone. So both are momentum indicators, but trade trend does a better job of telling us when to get in. It predicts the move before the MACD. So what we've done is we partnered with MetaStock to cut the learning curve for you guys out there that are using MetaStock and want to improve the accuracy and consistency of your trading. And you can do this starting tomorrow. So this is going to be available to you at the end of our session, and you can start taking these signals really Monday, because tomorrow's Sunday, unless you're a forex or futures trader. You can start trading these almost immediately. No learning curve, which is pretty cool. So what trade trend does for you is it gets you in before the MACD signal, and it does that with a proprietary blend of momentum indicators, which produces nearly instant profits. It predicts short-term and long-term trends with astounding accuracy. So if you're a short-term trader, it works great. If you're a position trader, it works fantastic. If you're a long-term investor, it works great. It doesn't matter what time frame you're trading on. And it works with stocks, futures, and forex. Okay, so any time frame from tick charts and minute charts all the way up until to monthly charts. It works really, really well. And you can backtest that for yourself to see the results before you place a trade. That's the cool thing. You can actually do this on your own and see how it works before you commit any money to the strategy. Again, I've been trading these techniques for nearly 2 decades, and they've stood the test of time. They're not a fleeting fad. They're not going to go away tomorrow and stop working. They're going to continue to work because they're based on supply and demand momentum and shifts and continuations. You can also use this to supercharge your option strategies. For all your options traders out there, if you like to trade long calls or long puts or vertical spreads, you can do that, and you can trade without any guesswork involved. You can pinpoint very precise entries using Tradetrend, the Tradetrend add-on. So let's take a look at what this looks like in the platform. So MetaStock has done a really nice job taking these signals and providing exact instructions for when to get in the trade, what price, how to manage the trade as it plays out, and when exactly to get out. So again, there's no guesswork involved here. I've never seen, in my 20 years of trading, never seen anything like this that actually tells you when to get in, how to manage, when to get out with virtually no guesswork involved. So literally somebody with zero trading experience could take this and follow the instructions and make money. That's pretty cool, especially coming from someone like me, where it took me years and years to reach professional trader status. I went through a lot of trial and error to get where I am, and this is really cool. I wish I would have had something like this back in the beginning that would have allowed me to start making money immediately. So what Tradetrend on MetaStock does is, and I apologize here, the right side of the screen, the chart is a little scrunched up. So I'm just going to pick one signal here out of the middle. And it's a little difficult to see, but there was a diamond that told us to go long. And this was on July 5th. And you can see in the commentary on the left, it told us that there's a criteria for a buy setup that's taken place. And based on this alignment of technical patterns, and this includes volume, volatility, momentum, and other trend factors, the probability of the price moving up is at its highest. So it's telling us that we should take a long entry using a buy stop order at 53.32. And sure enough, this trade triggered the very next day. And had we just taken a long position in the stock, I'm not even talking about using options or anything like that yet, we would have profited over $3,500 on this single move alone. And you can see how many profitable signals were given on this chart. This chart encompasses, again, it's a daily chart. It's about a year. Yep, it's right around a year's worth of data. So it gives a lot of signals on a daily chart. And you'll see similar results on intraday charts as well. But everything's given to you. There's really no guesswork involved here. Now, I just took the last 5 trades. One thing that kind of gets me, there's a lot of instructors out there will cherry pick things, and they'll pick the best trades and show them to you. So I just took the last 5. This isn't cherry picked. This is the last 5 trades that Tradetrend on MetaStock identified on Micron. And I like Micron. I trade it myself quite a bit. That's why I picked it out. So these 5 trades, if you had just traded the stock alone, would have netted a little over $13,000. Okay, that's on 1,000 shares. For you options traders out there, if you had just taken directional put or call trades and committed a fraction of the money it would have taken to buy the shares, profited nearly $7,000. So this is just the last 5 signals. You saw how many signals were on the chart. There are a lot of opportunities. Let's take a look at another one. This is the TNA. This is the Direction Small Cap Bull ETF. I really like using Tradetrend on the leveraged ETFs. It does really, really nicely. So you can see there are quite a few signals on the chart here. We'll just look at some of them. This was a long trade. We got warned a day before the entry. Again, that's one of the great things about Tradetrend. It gives you warning before you need to get in. You've got plenty of time. So on a daily chart, you've got a full day's worth of warning that there's going to be a long or short trade pending. up to potentially 3 days of warning. And if you're trading intraday, it's going to give you 1 to 3 bars of warning before that trade triggers. So here's a nice one on the TNA. This is based on 1,000 shares. Here's a short trade, not a major one. Got us in kind of there when the market was flat, but it caught a little bit of that move to the downside, profit of over 2,000. This was a nice one. It caught us virtually at the bottom of that move, and nice little long trade to the upside. Almost caught the top of that one. We're short, profit of over 3,000. Did a really nice job catching a short trade here. If you had shorted 1,000 shares, it would have profited over $14,000. And look at that. Look at how it caught the very bottom of that move and told us to get long. Profit of nearly $9,000. So this is just 6 trades. Again, daily charts, 6 trades, and it netted nearly $40,000. Okay, that's what's possible with the Trade Trend add-on. All right, I very seldom do this, and the reason I don't is I'm not a bragger. I don't want to boast or anything of that nature, but I do believe in proof. When I teach classes, I always provide some degree of proof that this works. It's not theoretical, it's not hypothetical. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you some screenshots of my live trading account using Tradetrend. And these are, I'm a futures trader, as well as an options trader and stock trader. But these are all futures trades that I placed in my live account. This is not a paper trading account. This is actual money, live money that I traded. And these weren't major big positions. They were 1 contract each on each of these. And you can see what's possible with trade trends. So a profit of over $8,000 in a single day, $6,500 in a single day, over $6,000 on another day. And these are recent screenshots, by the way. That first one, the $8,000 was made during that December sell-off that we saw, over $5,000 just a few weeks ago. Okay, here's a few more. Nearly $14,000 in a single day. Again, I'm not trying to brag here. I'm just showing you what you can do with Trade Trend, what's possible. Okay, so these are all just single contract futures positions. That's it. Taking the Trade Trend signals. That's it. All right, so here's my promise to you. I want to help you have days just like these, just like the ones I just showed you, and I'm willing to provide the tool and show you how I do it. Plain and simple. So for being here today on the Online Trader Summit, we've formulated a very exclusive membership offer. And I think Jeff's going to get into a little more detail on this, but you can access it by going to metastock.com/tradetrend. Okay, so that's where you can join, and I'm sure that Jeff will tell you some other ways that we can access. But we're gonna give you 30 days of trade trend signals on the house, so it's free month to try this out. And as Jeff mentioned, you can also go for the 3-month trial at $270. So we'll tell you how to do that. And again, this works equally well with stocks, futures, and forex. Does a really nice job. I showed you live examples of my futures trades. We also do hold live trade sessions. So for those of you who want to try out Trade Trend today, you can join us on our live trade sessions where we look at specific trade opportunities out of Trade Trend through MetaStock. And you can see what we're looking at, what we're trading, and what our members are trading. And then we talk about specific strategies on these sessions, like credit spreads, vertical debit spreads, long calls, long puts. So we teach and coach how to trade these strategies using the Trade Trend signals. So I urge you to check out what our 17,000 plus students worldwide are saying about our incredible track record. We have lots of testimonials, and you can learn more about the Trade Trend add-on by going to Tradetrendcom. And if you join us today, we're going to throw in a special bonus. We have published a professional trading series that has over 9 hours of video content that teaches our very best stock and options and forex strategies. And we teach far beyond what you'll learn in the live sessions, for one, but also it'll help you apply the trade trend signals in various markets using various strategies. So if you're an options trader and maybe you like to trade credit spreads or you like to trade iron condors, you'll learn how to trade those specific strategies using Trade Trend. So that's a special bonus we're going to throw in if you download the Trade Trend add-on for MetaStock today. Okay, and once you download that, we'll send you instructions on how to access the professional trading series. It's all video content. You can take it from the comfort of your home. So you can get an entire free month, try out the trade trend signals, or we'll tell you how you can get 3 months access for a drastically reduced price of $270, and we'll throw in that special bonus. I've got one extra bonus for you guys today. So if you join Trade Trend, I'm going to give you a bonus trade opportunity. I've actually identified a really great setup, one of the better ones I've seen recently, and it's ready to go for Monday, and I want to share it with you. So if you join today, I'm going to show you what this trade setup is. I'm going to send it to you via email tomorrow, so you have time to enter it if you choose to do so, or paper trade it on Monday. This is one of many great setups, but it's one of the better ones I've seen in a while. So I'll share that with you as part of the bonus from today. All right. I'm sure there are questions. If you want to ask any questions, I'll do my best to field those today. If I don't get to your question, or you think of a question after our session, you can always email us at support@thetradingprofit.com, or you can go to Tradetrend.com and fill out our contact form. There's also a toll-free 800 number that you can call there with any questions that you might have about Trade Trend or about MetaStock. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. Again, there's our contact information, and I'll address any questions if there are any. Am I able to see the screen, Jeff, or the question chat, or are you going to send the questions over to me if there are any questions?
You can see them, and I can go through them with you. I can just read them off to you. That would probably be the easiest way. So
Okay.
we do have quite a few questions coming out, and hopefully we'll get to most of them. Let's say. Sanjay wanted to know if it suggests option strategies based on the indicator/signal. And I know it's a big part of your course as well. I'll let you talk to that.
Sure. Yeah, because it doesn't actually suggest option strategies, and that's the reason we have the course and we hold the live sessions, because we like to trade options ourselves. We actually run some options alert services for our members, but that's the reason for holding the live sessions and providing access to our professional trading series, is it will teach you how to incorporate option strategies using the trade trend signals. So for instance, if you get a long signal on a chart, we can teach you, and you like to trade verticals, debit spreads, we can teach you how to use that technique with the trade trend signals, and when and how to incorporate it. So that's all part of our training, and you do get access to all those sessions when you download the Trade Trend software. So you'll immediately get the access to the professional trading series, which will begin to teach you that. Again, that's 9+ hours of training, and then we'll also be holding live sessions. You'll have access to those as well.
Jack wants to know if it will work on any time frame. I already answered that partially. With MetaStock, you can apply it to any time frame. But
Sure.
what I wanted to ask you particularly was if there was time frames you recommend particularly.
Well, the beauty of the system is it does work on any time frame, because the time element is really not that important. What it's doing is it's, again, identifying momentum shifts and continuation. So whether that momentum is short-term or long-term is somewhat irrelevant. It does a really nice job of identifying those shifts and continuations regardless of time. And so I've done a lot of back testing. I'm not really a day trader. I guess if I get really bored one day, I might do a little trading. But again, going back to the beginning of my presentation, the reason I trade is for time freedom. So I like to get out and fish and things like that. So I don't want to be in front of my computer during the day. So I don't generally day trade, but I've done a lot of back testing, especially on the Trade Trend add-on with MetaStock on intraday timeframes, and I'm equally astounded at how well it does on intraday timeframes as well as daily. because I primarily trade off of daily charts. So I've done a lot of back testing on stocks, futures, and forex on intraday, and it does do very well. What time frame does better? Well, I think that's the beauty of the MetaStock platform is that you can, uh, prior to committing to a strategy or committing any funds to the strategy, you can go back and test that on timeframes. I've noticed that you know, it did fantastically well on a daily chart on a particular stock, and then it did even better on a 30-minute chart, and even better on a 15, but then maybe not quite as well on a 10. So I think that it's very important to back test before you choose a time frame, but I've found that it does very well on all intraday time frames.
Long says, thank you for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
And somebody wanted me to show how the scanning works again. So do you mind if I take the screen control for a second?
Not at all. That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. So let's. The real question is can I? I was having a hard time finding the button. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. I've only done this for 6 years. I should know how to share the screen back and forth. So here's a copy of the box art. But let me go back into MetaStock. It's so easy to use MetaStock to find these particular trades. And I'll also answer a couple of questions about kind of how things are displayed on the chart and kind of what things mean. But let me just go ahead and go into the Power Console here. Again, we have the charting, you've got scanning, we call it explorations in MetaStock, you've got system testing, and you've got forecasting. So if I click on the scanner button, there's a scan that scans for the long setups and the short setups. I do have all of the data loaded locally, and what I'll do is you just click on the scan button. I'm going to just go straight to the report here and just show you what it looks like. It doesn't take very long to actually run the scan, but I can just show you a report from the when I ran it earlier. So if we're looking at this one, this is the long setup report. So this will show us any of the long setups that are currently active. If I want to, I can actually sort these by the close price. So Google came up. Here's the entry price. One of the things about this particular add-on it says, okay, you should try and get in this case, 1135, but if it goes up above 1167, we're going to wait for a different opportunity. So it shows you that entry price as well as the maximum price that you should take and what your initial stop loss will be. Right here, you've got a good for value. So what this is like the signals that are generated by Tradetrend, they're good for 3 days. So in the case of Alphabet, if we opened up that chart, it would actually show a signal yesterday on a daily chart, with it being good for 2 more days. If it shows 0, like in the case of AutoZone right here, it shows 0. This means it's going to have to trigger in tomorrow. Okay. Let me go ahead and go back into the expert advisor commentary. I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to send that to voicemail. And let me just kind of explain to you exactly like what the color codes mean and kind of how you can read this. So this is the Dow Industrial Average. Right here, I'm just going to I'll narrow into this particular area of the chart right here, just so we can kind of walk you through what all of the different signals mean. And you'll see right here, you got a setup. Okay, that'll show up on the chart. If I click on that day, it'll show you that there's a criteria for the sell setup has occurred based on the alignment of the technical patterns, including volume, volatility, momentum, and trend factors. The probability of prices moving in the anticipated direction is currently the highest. Here's that suggested entry price. Do not take the price if it goes below this price. And here's your initial trailing stop. Okay, so if it triggers, you'll see an arrow on the chart and the chart will begin to paint. So before it was black, now it's actually painting red. That just means that you've triggered into the trade and you should take the trade. Now you'll notice for a couple of days, that's a kind of a bit of a brighter red, whereas it kind of gets a little bit later in the trade, it turns into a little bit of a darker red. And I'll explain that to you really quick as well. This also works on the long side, it's just 2 different shades of green. So in this particular case, if it goes into a darker red, basically it means that it's going to, the market is starting to turn adverse to the position, and it's actually going to give you automatically a tighter stop loss. So it's going to be a little bit more protective of that when it starts to turn into a darker color. So that's how the signals work to answer those questions. Uh, Sanjay has a little bit of a question on the pricing. And so you can get a free trial of this, which does include the 9 hours of bonus content. And that's a very, very generous offer. Thank you for doing that today, Jeff. The other thing is if you already have MetaStock, the cost on this is just $90 per month. Okay, or $972 per year. And what we're doing is you can either do the free trial. If you wanted to do a 3-for-1 on this, you can actually pay for 1 month and get it for 3 months, which brings down your cost to about $30 per month. So we can go ahead and get that set up for you. It's just $90 if you already have MetaStock per month. And so for the 3-month eval period, which is we bring that down to $30. The idea being, you're going to be willing to risk $30 a month to try it, and if it works well for you, your $90 a month is very, very cheap. So let's see. Let's look at some other questions. We've got quite a few minutes left, which is odd for me to be saying that. Sanjay says the 3-month trial includes the 9-hour videos. Yes, actually, that's also included in the free trial.
Yeah,
So
that's included in both. And by the way, that's a $700 value. So we sell that course on our website, thetradingprofit.com for $697. So it's a $700 value. So you'll get a lot of value just out of that course alone.
I need to scroll down. There's more questions. Let's see, what is the cost? We just covered that. So Greg asked another good question. What is MetaStock fees per month? So this is $90. We offer MetaStock in 2 versions. We offer an end-of-day version, which is just $59 a month. You can do that on a 3-for-1 as well. $59 a month gets you basically the MetaStock platform, as well as all of the data in end-of-day basis. The MetaStock, if you're not familiar with it, you're probably not because you're asking about it, has been rated #1 in its price category for 25 years in a row. We also have a real-time version. That real-time version basically comes with the Refinitiv Xena service. Refinitiv is the company that used to be known as Thomson Reuters. They employ 3,000 full-time journalists in about 300 different news organizations. It's a $19 billion a year company. 90% of what their revenue that they generate is actually selling real-time data to hedge funds and banks. We have a white-labeled version of software they spent over $1 billion developing, and all of that's available for about $250 a month, which is a fraction of what they pay for it. So, so there you go. In either case, I realized I didn't have the contact information on here. If you want to sign up for the Trade Trend trial, you can give us a call at 800-882-3040. You can do the extended trial or the trial that way, or you can visit metastock.com/sales-chat. Let's see. Jim asked a question, what time frame seems to work best? What do you recommend, Jeff?
Well, it's hard to answer because it depends on the market. And, you know, so like if you're day trading futures, I find that anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes works really well. With stocks, you can go even lower, 5-minute. Minute charts tend to work pretty well. It works. I think you'll see when you back test it, you're going to see that it works well on virtually any time frame. So it's really hard to answer. It just depends on the market, depends on the stock. But I would definitely back test. Like if you're looking at, for instance, if you're a futures trader, you're looking at the E-minis, S&Ps. You may want to run a few back tests on the time frames to see how it does. But again, that's kind of difficult to answer. It just depends on the market.
Gina's asking us to look at an example of a 5 to 15-minute chart, and also Chris is asking for an intraday example. So I
I was
think
going to say, if you want to show one, yeah, let's look at one.
yeah. So one of the things I'd like to point out is how well this is even just on a daily basis. Look at this kind of nice rundown that we had. You guys probably remember the Christmas rally that didn't happen, right? So this took advantage of a good chunk of that. It's been bullish for the good part of the early part of January. We had a bit of a false signal here, but again, that's why you use stop losses. we're just triggering into a long entry right now on a daily basis. Let's go ahead and push that down to a 30-minute for you and kind of take a look at how that looks on a 30-minute basis. Oh, I'm sorry, a 15-minute basis. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and go into custom right here, and I'll just go ahead and turn on 15 minutes. We'll go ahead and let the data load in, kind of see how the signals paint in. So right here, you did have a bit of an initial setup. It triggered on this move up. It kind of went a little bit soft, but you didn't stop out. And then you had this nice little run up. Here you had a little bit of a run down that you triggered into. Not much there. Here you had a little bit of a run up. This should give you a pretty good idea of how it will work on an intraday basis. So in terms of a 5-minute time frame, we can definitely do that as well. Let's go ahead and switch down here. And the other thing that you can do is before you, as we were talking about earlier, this does come with a bit of a back tester. And you can go in and say, okay, well, start with $10,000. Let's see how that kind of works. And it'll give you your ups and your downs. On a 5-minute basis, you had a trigger followed by a setup and followed by this pretty good trade right here. Had a pretty good trade to the short, a really good trade to the short, a couple that didn't work out where you would have stopped out. But again, what you'd want to do is be able to go in and test this to see a really good trade right here. So that should give you an idea. When you get this program on the trial, Juna, what you'll do is just open up this Power Console. I did record, what was it, Wednesday night, I sat down and recorded a 1 hour, or actually a 1.5 hour video to kind of walk you through how to do all this stuff, and we can provide access to that for you. But right here, if you go to the system tester, you have the ability to go in and say, start with $10,000, take every single trade on a daily basis, and tell me how that works. And one of the things that's actually pretty cool about our system test, I don't think we have time to run it now, but you can actually go in and say, okay, well, take the whole basket of the S&P 500. And tell me how well that works against the whole broad range of S&P 500. And I've got a report of that ready. You notice that I recorded this. I recorded a demo back on, I think it was the 30th or the 14th, one of those 2 dates. But we can kind of take a look at how that looks. And across a basket of 500 stocks, we have a really good distribution of winners versus losers. And the fact that we have the ability to kind of identify which signals this works really, really well for, this was about a 1-year history. On Chesapeake Energy, it would have returned over 150% on 17 different trades on a daily chart. So this is good. I go into a little bit more detail in the demo video that we recorded, but if you're looking at, okay, well, how well does this work on a 15-minute versus a 5-minute, and you want to test those different time parameters, you can absolutely do that. That's the whole idea behind testing. Tell me what works. I want to focus on what works. Tell me what stocks work well. I want to focus on those. So.
And Jeff, I think one thing that's looking at this graph that's important to notice too is that when we look at the stocks that did really well with Trade Trend and look at the profits on those relative to the losses on the ones that didn't do well, you can see really the benefit of this methodology is that your winners far outpace your losers. I mean, we had on Chesapeake there profits of nearly $15,000 on that one stock alone, whereas if you look at our loser side, we're just down on the 2,000. So the winners far outpaced the losers. I think it's important to note that as well. Not to mention that we had just purely far more winners than we did have losers. So.
Okay, we have a lot of questions and a little bit of time. I'm actually kind of chatting in the thing into the box, the sales chat address, because I don't think we'll have a chance for all of them. Juna, I hope Juna says, well, I hope you pick up some of my questions. I think we did. If not, make sure to chat in. There is the offer. There's how you take advantage of the 3-for-1 on MetaStock and the trade trend, or the free trial. The cost, again, just real briefly, MP, thank you for asking. It's $59 for DC plus the $90 for trade trend and $250 for real time. And you can get that on a 3-for-1, or you can get it on a free trial as well. metastock.com/saleschat to talk more about that. In order to see the video that I created, Just go to metastock.com/tradetrend. It's right there on the top of it. Okay. And June, yes, you can get a deal on the real time for a month. If you pay for a month, we'll give you 3 months. It's a great way to do a nice extended trial on it. You can also do just a free month as well. So metastock.com/sales chat for that. I know we kind of breezed through a lot of questions there. I'm going to go back through them and answer them all in the chat by typing while we get the next person. You're welcome, Juna. No problem at all. Any final thoughts, Jeff?
No, I'm very excited for everybody to try this out. I think you'll be astounded at the results that you see with it, and look forward to having you guys on our future sessions. And again, for those of you who joined today, we'll get that bonus trade out to you tomorrow for Monday. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, and I will say this, it is a fairly newer product, but we've had a huge amount of people kind of come in and do it on either a trial or an extended trial. And so far, the feedback has been very, very overwhelming. People really, really like this thing. So I'd recommend that you try it out. Talit says, do these add-ons work on MetaStock 15? The trade trend does not, but we can get you a deal on an upgrade to 16. The rest of them, I believe, should, but I had to check I would recommend 16. 16, Talit, added some of my favorite features that in any of the upgrades that we've had. So I'd recommend you grab the 16. It keeps, just briefly, like the ability to keep your explorations all in one place with the favorites, the most recently used indicators, the redesigned Explorer interface. I mean, the 16 was one of my favorite upgrades, and things that I use all the time are in 16. So I'd recommend you get the upgrade anyway. And they can give you a pretty good pricing on getting the new 16. So I won't have time to go into all of the things that they added to 16, but I will tell you that some of the things that they added were extremely, extremely good quality of life upgrades. So it is also part of the Traders Toolbox. So we've got Steve Bigelow, Vince Vora, Jeff Tompkins, Don Fishback, who's coming up to talk to us in just a second, odds compression. You can get all 4 of those add-ons. Normally that would be $31.63. As part of that, you'll get 2 years of stocks and commodities. That by itself is $147. You get 3 years of stocks of access to, or 3 months of access to MetaStock real time and the Refinitiv Zenith institutional news service. You'll get Unleash the Power of MetaStock, my special Valentine's Day Eve boot camp that we'll be doing at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Normally this is off $4,159. You can get it for $1,733. If you're already MetaStock user, that cost will be a little bit lower for you. Give us a call, 800-882-3040, or visit us online at metastock.com/saleschat. I know it was extremely busy earlier. It's kind of tempered down a little bit, so if you're trying to get a hold of us earlier, now might be a good time to try. Give us a call, 800-882-3040, or visit online with Robert or Edward right now at metastock.com/saleschat.